that although that apple is attractive and all that apple and the fall of man was created by touching something they should not have touched, there is a promise coming, a promised redeemer that's going to switch this whole story around. And we see that in the story of the fall of man when God looks at Eve and tells Eve, there's going to be a seed, one of your offspring, a seed is going to come and is ultimately going to crush the head of that serpent. That the story is bad, you're being cast out, there's going to be some problems, but one day there's going to be a Messiah born that's ultimately going to die on this tree. So the tree that brought death brings death again some thousands of years later, but that death ultimately brings life. So you got the tale of two trees, right? You got the one that does death, and you got the tree that ultimately brings life, and that would be the cross, right? Because being crucified on a cross is to die on a tree. And then you would see the apple, and you would see the fall, and you would see the bread, and you would remember the Redeemer. You would remember the promise of a seed that was coming to change all things. The tale of two trees, and now you have a tale of two Eves. You got the first Eve, who was perfect, in the image of God, holy, tempted, eats, destroys humanity. Brings about the death of her and Adam, because now she's getting Adam to eat, and he eats, and mankind falls. But later, as the story goes on, there's another Eve, but her name is Mary. She's not like the first Eve, because the first Eve was holy and perfect and pure and was tempted, said no to God and did wrong. This second Eve, who we call Mary, was not perfect and holy. She was born with that sinful nature. She was born under the curse outside of paradise. But when the angels showed up, this second Eve, this Mary, says yes to God. Do with me as you wish. And because of that, seed was able to be born. And who we're celebrating tomorrow is that seed. So you got two trees, you have two Eves. And then you also have two Adams. Because although it took a woman to fall, she didn't fall alone. There was a man that fell, and his name was Adam. And the scripture says that because of Adam, all men die. But this new Adam, the one that is born from this Eve, who we see in Romans chapter 12, is surrounded by the moon and the stars and the sun, because this is a special woman, unlike the first woman. And this special woman gives birth to the special child, who becomes the second Adam, who, while the first Adam said no and ate, the second Adam says yes, and dies on that tree to bring us all life. So Christmas is a tale of two trees, it's a tale of two Eves, and it's a tale of two Adams. And understand, those two people are integral to the story of salvation. It took Eve and it took Adam to destroy it, and it took Mary and it took Jesus to restore it. Mary is a very special person in the story of redemption and the story of creation. Two trees, two Adams, two Eves. And because of this new Adam, and because of his willingness to die on the tree, there's no more curse. It tells us that there's going to be no more curse. And in our scripture this morning, in chapter 2 of Revelation 22, it says, down the middle of the great street of the city, on each side of the river, stood the tree of life. So now we see the tree again. We see mankind restored back to paradise, restored back to where we once were. And what's there? The tree of life, the very tree that we were cast away from, the very tree that we weren't allowed to touch anymore, we weren't allowed to have access. But because of the second Adam, and because of his willingness to die on the tree, we have access to the tree of life again. And we're living in a place where there's no more curse. It says in verse 3, no longer will there be any curse. The throne of God and the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will serve them. So because of the second Adam, right, paradise is open again.